Imagine if I told you there's a man on the Formula One grid taking home more in a single race weekend than many of us would make in a lifetime, and another driver taking home peanuts compared to that, even though he puts his life on the line at 200 Kentuckys. In 2025, the difference between the richest and poorest F1 drivers is greater than ever. And it's not so much who can win races anymore. It's about branding, politics, and even TikTok fame. Welcome to the wild world of F1 wages, where talent occasionally becomes secondary to market value, and a newcomer can receive more press than a podium finisher. Lewis Hamilton, Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton's dramatic switch to Ferrari in 2025 was not only a shock to fans, it was accompanied by one of the biggest paychecks in F1 history, a reported $55 million, 0 cents annually. The seven-time world champion adds star power, experience, and a legacy that Ferrari is desperate to tap into to break their championship drought. But this check is not just to race, it's to revitalize a whole brand, refire a fan base, and to bear the dreams of Tifosi everywhere. Ferrari is well aware Hamilton is not just a driver, he's an international name who sells jersey space, garners sponsors, and raises cachet. With that check comes huge pressure. Every race, every choice, every action will be under the microscope. If the SF25 doesn't meet its promise, it won't simply be a case of technical inadequacy. It'll be a $55 million 0 cents question mark to hang over the head of Maranello. Max Verstappen, Red Bull Racing. Current triple world champion Max Verstappen isn't lagging far behind at a purported annual salary of $50 million, 0 cents. Red Bull identifies Max as the linchpin of their domain, fast, dominant, and unshakably assured. His contract features enormous bonuses for victories and championships, and given his almost flawless performances, those bonuses accumulate rapidly. Verstappen isn't racing to win, he's racing to create a dynasty, and Red Bull is spending every penny to ensure he stays loyal. But recently, the harmony has begun to crack. Whispers of internal conflict, exit clauses, and potential connections to Mercedes have fueled intrigue. Red Bull recognizes that they must keep him content, not only with victories, but with team harmony. Max's pay is the price of preserving excellence. And if it all falls apart, it'll be one of the most costly divorces motorsport has ever seen. Charles Leclerc, Ferrari. Charles Leclerc's freshly renewed contract at Ferrari sets him at $36 million, 0 cents annually, a clear indication that the Scuderia still thinks he's the future. Even without having yet won a world championship, Leclerc has been fiercely dedicated and always quick, providing Ferrari with flashes of brilliance in otherwise challenging years. With Hamilton now alongside him, he must face not only his best teammate, but his most demanding test. This salary places him in among the elite, but one that also brings a magnifying light, particularly now that comparisons to Lewis will be weekly grist. Ferrari's investment in Charles shows long-term trust, but trust in F1 fades quickly without results. If the SF25 underdelivers, or if Leclerc is regularly outpaced, fans and critics alike will question whether he's a future world champion or just another almost hero in red. Lando Norris, McLaren. McLaren's golden boy Lando Norris earns an estimated $20 million, 0 cents per season, and it's easy to see why. Aside from being quick and reliable, Norris is a PR poster boy, youthful, down-to-earth, and with a huge online presence. His Twitch streams and off-grid personality attract an entire new generation of fans. But don't get him wrong, McLaren isn't paying him to be hilarious. They're paying him to take them to the front. And as their car performance improves, the pressure on Lando to start bringing in real results has escalated. He's expected to turn podiums into wins now, and social media thumbs won't factor on the timing screens. Whilst Norris may well be joking about off-track, behind-the-scenes expectations are business as usual. If McLaren isn't breaking the top 3 before long, then Norris may be eyeing alternatives, and teams will be queuing up to dish out even more millions his way. George Russell said, Mercedes. Now the undisputed number one driver at Mercedes, George Russell, comes up in both position and pay, now earning approximately $18 million, 0 cents a year. Following Hamilton's exit, everyone looks to George to drive Mercedes back to the top. He's no longer the second fiddle, he's the headliner. Mercedes has always prized precision, calm, and measured talent, and Russell fits all those criteria. But with the team under pressure from Red Bull, Ferrari, and even McLaren, the burden on Russell to deliver is gigantic. That $18 million, 0 cents, isn't merely a bonus, it's an investment in the future. And with up-and-coming drivers climbing the ranks and Toto Wolff demanding the best, Russell's every race is a question of whether he can be a leader or merely a follower. It's time for him to not just fill Hamilton's seat, but to earn it in his own right. Fernando Alonso, Aston Martin. At 43 years old, Fernando Alonso is proving that age really is just a number, especially when you're earning $15 million, 0 cents a year, and still out driving men half your age. Aston Martin sees Alonso not just as a driver, but as a blueprint for building a championship-worthy team. His experience is unrivaled, his racecraft razor-sharp, and his feedback has been instrumental in the team's recent gains. $15 million, 0 cents may be paltry compared to Verstappen or Hamilton, but Alonso brings worth that can't be quantified simply in tenths of a second. There is a risk, though. Can a driver sustain this intensity in a sport that continues to get younger and quicker? One crash, one injury, or one dip in form might be all it takes for the critics to wonder if Aston Martin is spending money on a legend or holding on to a memory. Yet for now, Alonso is delivering, and with each pass, he's reminding the paddock why he's still every penny worth. Oscar Piastri, McLaren. Oscar Piastri is among the quickest emerging stars on the track, and McLaren has sensibly signed him to a good multi-year contract, rumored to be between $8 million, 0 cents a year. That's a lot for a second-year driver, and a sum that speaks volumes about how much talent McLaren believes he possesses. Cool under pressure, laser-sharp in qualifying, and already putting Lando Norris to the test, Piastri has become F1's quiet assassin in no time. But with increasing pay comes increasing pressure. Each move he makes will now be measured against Norris, and each mistake exaggerated. Others question whether McLaren can keep both drivers content, and whether Piastri will one day have his own team. For the time being, however, $8 million, 0 cents, for a young star who could be a future world champion seems like a steal, and McLaren might be counting on that investment to pay dividends, big ones, very quickly. Sergio Perez, Red Bull Racing. Sergio Perez continues to fulfill the role of dutiful lieutenant at Red Bull, taking home a reported $10 million, 0 cents annually. While that's a hefty sum by any standard, in the world of F1, especially when sitting in arguably the fastest car on the grid, it's a mid-tier paycheck. Perez has been instrumental in securing team championships and supporting Verstappen's title runs, but let's not pretend the garage dynamics are always equal. His unreliability, especially in qualifying, has raised questions, and people question whether Red Bull is paying over the odds for a driver who cannot consistently support Max. Nevertheless, Checo has managed to pull off the cape-saving drive when it counts, particularly on street circuits and in muddled races. That $10 million wage bill is the cost of experience, dependability, and the occasional magic trick. But if his form dips any further, Red Bull might be wondering if it's time to give a young academy driver that spot and save a few million in the process. Yuki Tsunoda, RB, formerly Yuki Tsunoda's salary sits at an estimated $2,500,000, 0 cents, and while that might seem modest compared to others, it marks a huge leap from his rookie days when he was barely clearing $1 million, 0 cents. Tsunoda has come on enormously over the last couple of seasons. His tantrums have toned down, his pace at races has got sharper, and his reliability is finally settling. Red Bull realizes that he has the potential to be a long-term value player, with increasing interest in Honda in his long-term prospects too. But Tsunoda's not in the clear yet. He needs to demonstrate that he can guide a midfield crew and potentially battle for podiums when the chance is there. One poor season, and he may get swapped out by a different Red Bull Jr. That $2,500,000, 0 cents isn't a salary check. It's an experiment in whether or not he is able to shake off the hot-headed rookie moniker and become a legitimate threat for a future Red Bull seat. Logan Sargent Williams. Logan Sargent makes a reported $1 million 0 cents a year, one of the lowest paid drivers on the grid. As the lone American on the team, his commercial appeal to the sport is huge, particularly with the rise of US-based Grands Prix. But F1 is not about country, it's about lap times, and that's where Sargent has fallen short. Rookie errors, crashes, and up-and-down performances have raised doubts about whether he really has a place in the cutthroat environment of Formula One. Williams has tolerated him so far, but that tolerance has an expiration date. If he doesn't demonstrate significant improvement in 2025, that $1 million 0 cent seat might be available to someone else. For Sargent, this year is make or break, not only for his salary, but for his career. But anyone can relish a comeback story, and with the right tailwind, Logan might put all the doubters at rest and establish that American drivers do have a place in F1, and not merely for the sake of marketing. Which wage surprised you the most? Who's overpaid? Who deserves more? Leave your hot takes down in the comments below. Smash that like button, subscribe for more in-depth breakdowns, and enable notifications so you never miss an upload.